The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
From Mallory Square in Key West to the Governor's Mansion in Tallahassee and all points beyond, you're listening to the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com, your source for all things related to the craft beer community in the Sunshine State. And now your host, Dave Butler.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 102 of the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by Florida Beer Blog. This is Dave, your host and author, and it's kind of remarkable that I am using triple digits to talk about the episodes. That's kind of amazing. Not only that, but in case you haven't noticed on my social media feeds and the social media feeds for the Florida Podcast Network, we are now the award-winning Florida Beer Podcast. We recently won a Gold Crushie at the 2022 Craft Beer Marketing Awards. One of only a few podcasts here on the planet to win such an award. I am quite humbled and honored that something small that started literally with me reading old blog posts in my car during my lunch breaks turned into something that was so big. And so let's have a little bit of fun with that. We're gonna have some fun with this today. I've got kind of a fun special guest host for the second half of today's episode. But for the first half, our executive producer, Jemmy Legagneur, tasked some of the rest of the team at the Florida Podcast Network with some highlights that have come on in the past couple of years for the Florida Beer Podcast. And so that's what you're going to be listening to today. We have clips from Manny Portuondo and Matt Weintraub, the owner and founder at La Tropical in Wynwood. We are going to be chatting with them about the importance and I guess sort of the nerves they come with brewing a beer that has a history of over 100 years. We'll go back to the archives to chat with Alan Branch from History Class Brewing, not just about the history of Pensacola, but local history and how breweries can help to celebrate and bring light to something that a lot of people don't really understand and don't really remember. We'll also talk to Niana Ferguson. She is the creator of the first Black female-owned tequila brand here in the United States, Anteel Tequila. And obviously we'll talk to her about the importance of representation and making sure that people have the opportunities to create any sort of brands they want to, even if it's a traditionally non-traditional market. And finally, only a couple of episodes ago, my daughter and I were in St. Pete at Right Around the Corner Arcade Brewery, chatting with Tom Rockhill about the Power Glove that's right by the front entrance, as you hear my daughter playing very loud skee-ball in the background. Once these are over, we're going to bring you to our special guest, but in the meantime, enjoy these 4 special clips from the award-winning Florida Beer Podcast.
How difficult is it to brew a beer with such a pedigree behind it? I mean, it's literally, the concept of this beer is probably older than your grandparents.
Oh, for sure.
Does that scare you in a certain way?
No, I look at it as a challenge, right? And so the hardest part of this challenge is really understanding what the beer was, right? And so what Manny and the beer was in the past and what Manny's interpretation of it is in his mind, and then putting that into paper, like onto paper, and then putting that into a liquid form. Because that all takes effort, right? So we need to get all of that idea. And so we really had to dig into what was done already and also what Vienna lagers were in the past and try to hybridize that into a modern interpretation of what we want.
Nice.
And I mean, I'll add to that, right? I mean, we'll show you in a bit. This Rolex brewing system is a pretty sophisticated animal.
Yeah.
They didn't have that in 1888.
Yeah,
so how do you brew that formula in a modern brewery,
Right.
like the one that we have? It's two different animals.
Yeah,
right?
so back in the day, I mean, there's obviously a lot of manual valves, and it was a lot about how the brewers interacted with that liquid. Whereas now, it's really figuring out how we interact with that liquid and then putting a number of value towards that to create a consistent product in the background, which is great. But we lose that aspect in the first part of that hand touch of the liquid. But once we gain what that number is as a value, we can consistently make the product, which is something they didn't have in the past.
In terms of Panama City, is there a lot of local history to celebrate?
Well, I think there is. We're not Gettysburg. We don't have bullets in the ground and things like that. But I think most cities have a fascinating time. If you really start studying cities were created by ordinary people, mostly real estate developers, who said a town would be really great here. A port would be really great here. A farm, things that people created towns. They just kind of banded together and they built things that the town needed. And that really is at the heart of entrepreneurship to me. So, Panama City has great history. I don't think our history is completely unique to our town. I think a lot of towns have great history.
Why was it so important to you to focus on and celebrate that local history that you have?
The reason why we decided to celebrate the history of our town is, a lot of times breweries pick a body of water, a lake, a river, a bay, or a mountain, or a valley, and they name their brewery around that centralized thing. We have a beautiful bay here, so certainly St. Andrews Bay Brewery was a name we considered. I love the stories of this town. I live downtown. I actually live across the street from the brewery. Which was the center of the town, like literally the center of the town. The little village that first started as Panama City started right here. I live behind the first mayor's house. And so we just couldn't pick a name. We couldn't pick one story that was like, that's the story. And I think a lot of smaller cities, Panama City is 35,000 people. Our county is 150,000 people. And small cities are kind of like redheaded stepchildren. And they kind of marginalize themselves. They look up to larger cities, Atlanta, Orlando, wherever, and they go, well, we're not as cool as those guys. And I think to love a place, you need to know a few of the stories. And if we can facilitate that, if we can shine a light on the special people, if you look at history of a town, a lot of it, unless you're talking about a battlefield, a lot of it are stories about people pouring themselves into the community. The names on your streets are people who poured themselves into the community. The names of the schools and the gyms and the bridges are all people who poured themselves into the community. And I couldn't pick one. And so I love the idea of celebrating people who put themselves and poured themselves in the community. And so we named ourselves History Class because we like all the stories.
Your tequila brand is the first Black female-owned tequila brand in the United States. Why do you think that took so long? Why do you think there hasn't been more of this before now?
I think I'll take that question. I believe probably because a lot of women or Black women do not think about this space, the spirit industry space. One, it is a male-dominated industry. And I think finding out about tequila, knowing that it is way more to do with tequila than maybe vodka or beer or something like that, because we do have to deal with the Mexican government, the U.S. government. So it's a little bit more complicated and more challenging than just a spirit that's not as highly regulated. So that may be, and it may be just because of the stereotypical thought on what tequila is, that they just did not want to get into the space.
Interesting. And then, Nayana, one of the things that you are very open about, which I'm definitely happy to see, is that you have survived both pancreatic and breast cancer. And you found that tequila is one of the spirits that you can actually enjoy without putting anything at risk. What is the mechanism behind that?
Well, as Don said, when we met, we started drinking tequilas, and we actually started researching more about premium brands. And we were researching tequila and found out that it is made from the agave plant. and therefore it's naturally gluten-free. We found out that it's very, very low in sugar, carbs, and things like that. And with my health history, we found out that it does not raise my glycemic index. Because me being a pancreatic cancer survivor, I am basically diabetic or pre-diabetic. So I need to watch what I'm putting into my body. And when you research that, you find that other liquors, and not saying that there are no other spirits that are gluten-free, but some of them have either grains or corn. Like corn is actually a sweetener in itself. The regular vegetable is something that is actually naturally sweet. And if you eat too much of it, it could be too much for your body. So it just became me looking at the things that I was drinking to put into my body because, you know, of course, most people, they say you're a cancer survivor. They don't want you to drink, but I'm still human. I still want to have a beverage here and there. And I want to have something that's good for me or that's not as bad. So straight tequila neat does not raise my glycemic index. So that's where that actually came from.
How many people were excited to see it? Old school Power Glove here.
Most of the people we have coming in don't even know what it is.
Oh, that's so sad.
I have to explain it to people. I was like, I was the cool kid on the block in 1989 because I had the Power Glove.
Do any of the people that actually know what that is ever quote The Wizard?
Yes. I don't remember what quotes from The Wizard. Like, I remember The Wizard. That was a great movie.
Very good.
With Fred Savage and his
it's about it. Yeah,
autistic brother.
Pretty much.
That movie's so great.
Yeah,
that's where we learned about Mario 3.
Exactly.
My head exploded watching that movie. Like, I can't wait to go buy that game.
That was such a naked Nintendo advertisement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's be perfectly honest.
But it worked so organically. And every kid, I mean, I'm 41 and I watched that when it came out and everybody my age was going to Kmart. Got to go buy Mario 3 as soon as it comes out. And it was a game-changing game.
No, absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
2, we're going to give him a pass on.
Yeah, well, 2 wasn't really Mario.
No, it was another game that they
changed.
Yeah. They just said, we'll throw Mario's head on this. And
I got a 70.
You got a 70? Good job.
Can you shoot for 100?
I bet you can get 100.
If you get 100, I'll let you have dinner tonight.
Ooh, that's a good deal.
Well, you usually let me have dinner every night.
I think he's supposed to.
Yeah.
It's like by law, I think.
Go play. Go play. Go see what you can get.
I'm going to see if I can get 100 on it.
Go for it.
I'm going to get 300.
Good. Go for it.
300 would be really good.
What's going to come out of the machine?
Nothing.
And nothing comes out of the machine.
Just love it.
You used to get tickets back in the day, and then if it was at an arcade, you can go get toys.
Yeah. You've been to places like that.
Jeez.
There's a place down by us called the Silver Ball Museum.
Okay.
It's all old school pinball machines, but they're like meticulously restored with information.
Yep.
But the back wall is just skee ball. And we went once and we couldn't get her away from it. If you've been listening to the Florida Beer podcast for the past couple of weeks, you know that I am a very, very big fan of our next guest and sort of guest host for the rest of this episode of the Florida Beer podcast. We are very happy to have with us Joel Lounds. He is the host of Florida Man News, the newest podcast on the Florida Podcast Network. I listened to him and his former counterpart when they had just Florida Men, and very, very happy to bring him onto the show. How you doing, Joel?
Hey, great, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So you recently went to the Bonita Beach Brew Fest, or just the Bonita Brew Fest. How was it?
Oh, it was great. Just the amount of local breweries here in Southwest Florida was almost overwhelming. There were so many different brewers. It was just a really great time. Just being able to be here in my hometown, Bonita Springs, right in the middle of downtown at Riverside Park, and to have all the people just be there. It was almost overwhelming, having not been in a crowd that size in a couple of years. So, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of great beers, a lot of great people there. It was really well organized, and I think everybody had a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know Bonita Springs has had a few new breweries open up recently, if memory serves me right.
Yeah, there's two new ones that have opened in the last 6 or 8 months, and that adds to Riptide, who was here before, formerly Momentum. I know Riptide has been on the show before, and they were there, and so were the two new breweries, Ceremony and Hopsized. I didn't get a chance to talk to them. Both of those booths were packed the whole time. I think Ceremony ran out actually before the end of the day and packed up and headed back to the brewery, which was just a couple blocks away from the event actually. So obviously they had a good day. Everybody from Bonita really just has welcomed both of them with open arms.
That's kind of amazing. So it sounds like people were more interested in the local people than they were anybody that's kind of statewide or national.
Well, it was all, I think the farthest brewery was from Cape Coral. Everything else was Fort Myers, Naples, and the Bonita area.
Out of the beers that you tried, what were kind of some of your standout favorites?
Hands down, Crazy Dingo's Feelin' Buzzed, I think it's called. It's a beer with honey, made with local honey that they grow right there at the farm. That was my favorite of the day.
Crazy Dingo is sort of an interesting brewery if you've never been there, but they are making some fantastic beers from what I remember. So it's good to hear that from you. So I guess with the interviews that you did and were so graciously able to do for us, kind of how was the process? Does everybody that you spoke to, was everybody kind of interested in really kind of talking about not just their brewery, but the relative growth of Southwest Florida's craft beer scene?
Yeah, everybody wanted to talk about their own, but they were all really excited to be back and going to the festivals. I think this is really the first one in the area since the start of COVID. So everybody's just really excited to get back into the swing of things.
Gotcha. So we're going to be getting interviews from Roger Phelps at 8 Foot Brewing. They've been on the show. He is a fantastic brewer, one of my favorites in the area, actually. Adam Kelley from Ankrolab, Bill Vaughn from Bonehook Brewing is coming back. Alex Tatko from Coastal Dayz, Dan Esperon from Crazy Dingo. I do believe that was the same guy that we interviewed, Steve and I, a long time ago. Daniel Higby from Millenial Brewing, and Ron Richards from Palm City Brewing. So thank you so much, Joel, for recording those, and enjoy.
Game day. All right.
No worries.
All right, I'm here with
I
Roger.
can fill that glass up for you too if you need.
That's part of my problem. All right, I'm here with Roger from 8 Foot Brewing in Cape Coral.
Hello.
Roger, thanks for talking to me today.
Absolutely.
What brings you down here to beautiful Bonita Springs?
Oh man, it's a beautiful day out, and we've been doing this fest for 5 years now. So
Very
it's
cool.
one of the better beer fests I think in the area. It's great because you actually have the brewers come out and serve their beers. It's a fun time for me because I get to talk to all those brewers, and I'm not cooped up in my tap room.
Very cool.
During season.
So
Yeah.
do you get a lot more variety of customers that you see here than normally in your tap room?
I'm not sure if we necessarily correlate customers to this event,
Okay.
but we really enjoy doing events. I think for the most part, a lot of people know that we've existed or been around.
What got you into the passion of brewing?
So that's a very lengthy response that I'm going to give you, but I'll just give you, a quick rundown. I grew up home brewing, drinking good beers, 10, 15 years ago. And that kind of evolved into our tap room and our brewery, which we do small barrel, small batch. So we got a 3-barrel system where we always do different beers. So we don't necessarily brew the same thing over and over again. Kind of having fun with it, doing lots of research, history style, whatnot, and trying to replicate certain things.
Okay, so do you guys have a set of core beers that you always have, or is it always something new?
So if anything, we do specialize in mixed firms. If anything, one of our flagships or core beers would probably be our mixed firms that we have. We have a dark base and amber base, which we have on here, Henrietta, our amber base, and then a gold base. And, so I, as a home brewer, I started brewing and filling up barrels, and those are the same barrels that we use at the brewery right now.
Very cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Roger, thank you once again, and good luck.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking some time to talk to me. Cheers.
Absolutely. We are at the Bonita Brew Fest. I'm with Adam from Ankrolab Brewing in Naples. Adam, how you doing today?
Doing so well. Thanks so much for spending a couple minutes with me today.
No problem. We wanted to talk to everybody, just find out a little bit about your brewery and what brought you here to Bonita today.
Oh, sure. So this is the best of the beer fest that we have around here. And we love coming to this festival. This will be our third time here, and we've only been open 3 years.
That's awesome. So what beers did you bring today?
So we brought our hazy IPA that's called Turtle Season. We brought our old school American Amber, Otto's Barn, and our Mexican style Cerveza Simplexity.
So 3 beers today, or 4? Can I count? Is that 4 or 3?
That's 3, but we
That's
also
3.
brought a bunch of crowlers that we're opening every 15 minutes.
Awesome. So what got you guys started? I know you guys have been in Naples for, like you said, 3 years. What got you started, and what really has piqued your passion for brewing?
So like so many others, I started as a home brewer and decided to drop out of medical school and went into doing this as a full-time gig and love it. No turning back.
As somebody whose day job is in medical billing and collections, you probably went with the more profitable.
Yeah, well, I don't care about profits, but there's some survivability to it.
Absolutely, especially the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, Adam, thank you again for talking to us, and we'll see you around.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
No way.
Keep going. Keep going, man. All right. What was your name again?
Bill Vaughn.
Bill from Bonehook Brewing.
Bonehook
in Naples.
Brewing, head brewer.
All right.
Operations manager,
awesome.
maintenance guy, floor sweeper, mopper, whatever you call it.
Hey, if you do everything, you're the you're the perfect boss. So thanks Bill for joining us here on the Florida Beer Podcast. I know Bonehook has been featured on the podcast before with Dave. What brings you here to the Bonita Brew Fest today?
Well, we're like 3 to 5 miles from the brewery. It's basically our backyard, and it's the biggest beer festival in our area. I think it's 5 or 6 years now they've been here, and it's always a great turnout. As the head brewer, I don't make it out to too many festivals, but this is a must attend for myself, and
it's hard to find excuses when you're just at the next exit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get. We've got everybody saying how great the Bonita Brew Fest is. We'll get Dave down here next year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I know you've already been featured on the podcast, but if you want to refresh everybody's memory, how long has Bonehook been in business? And
well,
what
Bonehook
got you started?
As a total was started in 2016. They were a little different back then. They were just a brewery tap room. In 2018, our current owners bought a restaurant next to us, invested in the brewery. They took the tap room, added a bunch of fermenters in there, and they opened the restaurant next door, blew out the wall in between, and turned us into the largest brew pub in Southwest Florida. So I started in 2019 as the head brewer and operations manager. So we've got a storied past so far, and but we're always excited on the horizon, what's coming up next.
And you guys have got obviously a great location right there on Immokalee Road.
Immokalee Road's got some of the highest traffic in the county, which is
and my wife will definitely agree to that because she works on Immokalee Road.
Exactly, and when I leave, it's a double-edged sword because you're cussing the traffic, but you love that the people are there. So
exactly. All right, well, Bill, thanks for talking with us on the podcast today, and good luck with the Bonita Brew Fest.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, and we always look forward to anything you guys want to do.
So we've got Alex from Coastal Dayz Brewing, and you guys are in Fort Myers, Florida.
Yes, sir. Downtown Fort Myers.
All right. And how long have you guys been in business?
We're coming up on our 4th anniversary, actually, in April.
Awesome. Congratulations. And what brings you to the Bonita Beer Fest today?
It's a nice festival where all the local breweries can come together and everybody gets to try all the local breweries all in one spot without having to hop all across Southwest Florida. So we like helping support the local community and give back and try to let everyone taste what Southwest Florida is about.
Yeah, we are really a big geographically large area, and
Yes.
the breweries are all spread out, so it's really hard to bar hop between all of them. So this makes it a great opportunity to do that. What really got you into your passion for brewing here?
So I just started getting into all the different flavors of craft beer. My brother-in-law introduced me to them, and I just started going from there. And I just fell in love with the industry and everything about it. So I was lucky to have a career and make a career out of it.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say about the Bonita Brew Fest today, or about Coastal Days?
No, yeah, just hope everyone's having a great time, and hopefully they go out and support all these wonderful local breweries, because that's what it's all about. We come out here and we just hope that everyone goes and visits all the tap rooms and supports every single brewery, because we have a lot to offer for in Southwest Florida.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, I'm here with Daniel Higby from Millenial Brewing. He is the head brewer from Millenial. And Daniel, thanks for coming on the podcast today. I was just wondering, what brings you here to the Bonita Brew Fest today?
Well, this is like I would say the best kickoff for beer festivals every year for us. This is the one that starts off the season for them. Probably the most fun for me. I think we get to bring the most fun beers. It's not all about like our core beers. We get to bring whatever we want. So I usually bring in loads of beer and just offload it and have fun.
Awesome. So how long has Millenial been in business?
We just celebrated our 5th anniversary in January.
Congratulations. And what got you guys started in brewing? Before obviously everybody usually started as a home brewer first. Is that the same case?
Not me personally, actually. No, we originally started. I wasn't the original brewer that opened the place. I started when they opened. I opened the place, helped build it. But for me, it was actually just I wanted a really good part-time bartending gig. I wanted extra money for bartending. But what happened was, fortunately for me and unfortunately for the other brewer, they kind of gave up. And I stepped in, learned how to brew on our system at Millenial Brewing, and have been growing ever since. Like that's by started.
Oh, that's actually a great comeback story, I guess.
I've never brewed a small batch beer. Everything for me has always been at least 5 barrels or higher. It's never been I've never been able to do some small little thing to experiment. Everything's big for me. So
that's crazy. That is very atypical, but it's a great story.
I feel like going backwards. It's like going backwards now. If I were to go smaller, it's like, wow, it's just all that extra work. I'm making less beer.
All right. Well, Daniel, thank you very much. And
you're very welcome, man.
Hope you guys have a successful Bonita Brew Fest.
Thank you.
I'm here with Ron from Palm City Brewing. Ron, welcome to the Bonita Beer Fest.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, what can you tell me a little bit about Palm City Brewing and how long you've been in business and what brings you to the Bonita Beer Fest today?
Well, yeah, so Palm City Brewing, we'll be turning 5 years old this year in June.
Congratulations.
This is the Brew Fest has been kind of near and dear to our heart. One that we've been attending, as home brewers prior to us being open, now all the way through us being open and being able to actually pour. This is one that's truly special for us. They keep it local. It's one that we always look forward to every year.
So you mentioned you got started as a home brewer.
Yes.
How long were you doing that before you actually opened up Palm City?
Doing that for about 6 years before we opened. Myself and my buddy Ryan. So my buddy Ryan is the owner and the brewer. Got me into home brewing with him back in 2010. He was home brewing prior to that, and just a hobby turned to a passion. Now turned to a dream and a profession.
So how did you ignite that passion in brewing?
It just took an interest. I mean, any home brewer, likes to drink, every home brewer likes to, think big and just kind of say everyone kind of has that dream of, possibly opening a brewery, and you try, you obviously sample some of your friends and have some gatherings, and, you just kind of get inspired, and, it's just a matter of taking that plunge, and it's been great.
All right, and look where you are now.
Yeah, no, it's great. We're having fun.
Well, thanks, Ron, for talking to me today, and good luck with the rest of the Brewfest.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So it sounds like you had some really great interviews. Thank you so much for doing that for our listeners.
Hey, no problem. I was going there anyway, so always a chance to to get to try out the mobile recording rig. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, it was just so many great people there. It was just a great time.
Awesome. And well, you recorded one other interview, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. So this is Jemmy. Can you please describe Jemmy? I've got an idea for what Jemmy looks like in my mind's eye, but you actually met the man. What was Jemmy?
How do I describe Jemmy? Jemmy saw my microphone and he made a beeline toward me. Jemmy is a little bit older than me. I'm 47, and Jimmy seemed to be a little bit older, not too much. He didn't have too much gray hair, but in my mind's eye, I seem to recall he seemed to be a little thinning up top, little heavy set. I wouldn't call him fat, but not athletic, skinny dude. He looked like the kind of guy that you see at a beer festival, and he was having a good time.
Gotcha. I kind of wanted Jemmy to, I guess, be the mascot for the Florida Beer Podcast. Something tells me he's more at home with your podcast instead, though.
Yeah, I was going to say would have to share him.
Yeah.
He's a Florida man.
And so enjoy the minute plus of amazingness that is Jemmy.
All right. I heard your name is Jemmy. Was that you?
That's correct.
And Jemmy, what brings you to the Bonita Brew Fest today?
Well, I came for the beers, yet was looking for the women.
You know this is Bonita Springs in Southwest Florida, right?
That's correct. I hate to tell you this. I'm from Marco Island.
So our average age here is quite a bit younger than...
That's 100% correct.
I see why you came to
probably one of
Bonita.
the older of the participants of this crowd.
All right, so you're a fan of beer. What beers and what breweries have you enjoyed today?
I'd have to say that Ankrolab is pretty good in Naples. I've been there once or twice. This Get Hooked right behind us is extremely interesting. I'm not a big cider guy, so I am a big fan of all the non-cider beers.
Awesome. Well, Jemmy, we may or may not have this on the Florida Beer Podcast, but just look at us up at floridabeerpodcast.com in a couple weeks, and you may be on the show.
Thank you.
Jemmy. How I wish I could have met Jemmy. Maybe I don't. Yeah, I probably don't. Anyways, thank you so much for an awesome first couple of years and first 100 episodes, 101 episodes actually. We will be back next week. We've got all sorts of fun stuff. I know I promised you an additional city. I promised you Hialeah. You're going to get Hialeah. Don't worry about it. And we've got a lot of other really fun stuff to happen after that. In the meantime, I didn't mention this at the top of the show, but make sure that you find us on social media. We're at Florida Beer Blog on Instagram and Twitter, FL Beer Blog on Facebook, Florida Podcast Network. We're premiering new shows all the time. We got a lot of great stuff, and that's where you can hear this show. That's where you can hear Florida Man News. We got a bunch of additional stuff that are available or coming available. You'll find those all on floridapodcastnetwork.com. You'll also be able to find them on social medias, obviously searching for Florida Podcast Network and FPN Insiders, which is our exclusive Facebook group only for members. So if you search for FPN Insiders, you'll be able to find them that way. This is Dave, your host and author. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week with some more beer fun. Thank you so much, and drink Florida Craft.